Meet Dave of Delusions of Grandeur, actor, producer, and director of films like Tales of the Forgotten. He has come to assemble a team of freaks, geeks, and even worse, film nerds, to discuss films ranging from mainstream to downright crazy. There is Tammy, car enthusiast, and Dave's fiance, Dustin, reptile expert and overall horror collector, Jake, environmentalist and fine art film critic, and finally Brandon, a therapist with a love of film that can only be seen as insanity. Together under Dave's leadership, they are Inside Movies Galore. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Inside Movies Galore. I am one of your hosts, but today we are continuing a long and fettered journey with some films that we were subjected to by our good friend Jacob. Why don't I hand this over to him to let the audience know exactly which film we are coming on to discuss.
Oh, well, tonight we are looking at the Mario Puzo's The Godfather Part 2. Francis Ford Coppola's Mario Puzo's The Godfather Part 2, or whatever the official name is, whatever. Godfather Part 2. This is, of course, the sequel to The Godfather. Came out 2 years later, 1974. Once again, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Coppola tried to beg off and get someone else to direct, but the studio insisted, so the rest is history, as they say. And it's a sequel and prequel. The film tells parallel stories of Michael Corleone and his new dominance of the Corleone family a few years after the events of the first film, while also telling the story of young Vito Corleone and his arrival in America and his becoming the Don we all know and love. So, we have much of the same cast the first time around. Marlon Brando sat this one out, and as did the actor who plays Clemenza. But the young Clemenza is played by Bruno Kirby, and the young Corleone is played by Robert De Niro. And much younger, as he said several times with the last one. So let's go ahead and go around the room here and see everyone's first impressions. And we'll start with you, Tammy. Is this your first time seeing The Godfather Part 2? And what are your thoughts on it?
No. Like I said last week, David finally got me to watch all of the Godfathers, and now I owe them all except for the Coda one. So this was actually my second time watching it. At first it was a little confusing, and then and then David said, yeah, they are kind of like going back and forth on the timeline there,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, now I see what's going on, kind of like a before and after, But
Right.
Well, it's almost like it's trying to compare the two as they progress in their storylines.
Right.
but yeah, I found it interesting, and um, I guess that I'm watching them for my second time watching them. Um, I don't know what took me so long to watch them because I realized last week that I actually know a lot more gangster movies than I thought I did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's not really too much to say. I mean, it is a gangster movie. And it kept you. I guess the way they did it, it was kind of neat to get the background and see how things started. So instead of just a straight, okay, this part two, it was kind of neat to get some background on this one.
Right.
So, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay. All right. And it occurs to me that I didn't give the usual IMDb one liner, and their one liner: the early life and career of Vito Corleone in the 1920s New York City is portrayed, while his son Michael expands and tightens his grip on the family crime syndicate. So, yeah, decent description, I guess. Very simple. um, how about you, Dave? Is this your first? Well, obviously, it's not your first time seeing it, but what are
No,
your interest in this one? What are your thoughts?
well, just like the first one, I always saw bits and pieces of it while it came on to like USA Network or TNT. But once I finally got a copy of it on DVD, I ended up watching it several times on my own. Then also I introduced it to Tammy because she'd never seen them, nor was she ever truthfully interested in seeing them.
Mhm.
But once I kind of like goaded her into it, she actually liked them at the end of everything. So she ended up getting herself a copy of the three. So I guess to inspire someone to have it in their collection, that's at least a plus. Um,
And I don't
but
collect like David collects.
no,
Unless I like it, I don't buy it.
well, I always have some experimental films I buy. So, in any
Some.
case, yeah, just some. But at the end of everything, you got to look at the Godfather trilogy as a whole in retrospect because it's a full like long story of a patriarch, and what happens before is more or less in this movie, and I I like that aspect. I like the fact that it kind of goes back to Italy and shows you a little bit of that time period and all that jazz. And, as we have seen, both Michael and Vito are totally different men. Although both are very reserved. I mean, Michael is, if not anything, his father's son. It's just, I think that Michael Corleone is a little bit more brutal. Um, in retrospect, because Vito was more about keeping the peace, and keeping the family business original and out of the limelight of the law. At least what the law could accept, and we can very much see that Michael skirts the line. But anyways, I enjoyed the movie for what it is. Sure, we'll get into more of it as we go along.
Mm-hmm. All right. And Brandon, how about you? I don't suppose this is your first time. What are your impressions with this one?
So my first exposure to The Godfather Part 2 was in the movie The Freshman, where we actually do get to see a replay of the Vito Corleone character played by Marlon Brando, which the reason why the second film came to mind in that my first time watching was that is everybody familiar with the movie The Freshman?
Yeah.
A little comedy. And
I know I have it. I haven't seen it in its entirety.
It's about a film school student who ends up kind of involved with the mob.
I think I've seen it.
It is funny. It's enjoyable. It's not as over the top as the one I was talking about last time. Mafia. Jane Austen's Mafia. Have to keep the Jane Austen part in there.
I love Mafia.
But I think because it's not as zany as that, it actually is funnier at the end of the day. But I love the film. It's really fun. But a lot of it's, they're talking about this, and this kid's a film student, and they're talking about The Godfather, especially Part 2, because it has been essentially always listed as the one sequel that was unanimously considered the best of a series, whereas it's usually the first film in a series. Matter of fact, I think it was Scream also. Was it Scream 2? Let's see.
We got a comment, by the way.
Yeah. Married to the Mom.
What do you guys think of Dame's married to the Mob?
I have never seen it.
Yeah. I believe that would be Jonathan Demme, right? I've not seen the movie though.
But as far as like my first actual exposure to it, it was that same date as the last time, where I watched all three movies back to back during a nasty snowstorm in 2003. But I always wanted to watch it because all the film snobs told me it was the greatest film of all time. The most epic thing. And then I said, you know what? I'm going to watch it. And I had actually the same feeling I did that time, is I don't really consider it a better film than the first one. I think that the cinematography is better. But as far as the storytelling, the editing, everything else, I actually liked the first film much better. So, which puts me in the minority. I know. I'd be in an even bigger minority if I said I like the third one best. But I can't say that. So,
well, you're not necessarily the minority because IMDb has this one at number 4 and the first one at number 2. So I guess the majority of people at least slightly prefer the first one.
To me, I felt like the first one was a more solid narrative. I felt like it didn't jump around as much. There were parts of this film that when I was watching it this time that I would say, yes, could get confusing at times, where you could go a good couple of minutes and not realize that they did a time shift to the backstory or to the front.
Right.
But overall, though, it is a good film. I mean, saying it's just not as good as the first one is not necessarily a slight to the film, really. It's still an excellent film, still very well put together, and probably one of cinema's greats that I probably won't watch again for a long time because it is a long ass film.
It is a long ass film.
And in an answer to your question, I don't think I've seen Married to the Mob, so I can't really say anything about it as of yet. But I will put it on my list of films to watch.
See, all of us, not a single one of us has seen it.
That was one that
I don't think I did.
It's been on my yeah, it's Jonathan Demme. Michelle Pfeiffer, Alec Baldwin.
This week and last week is our like first foray into to like any movies dealing with the mob. So that's where we're coming from. Which one did we cover?
Miller's Crossing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well,
I think we've done at least one other, but I can't remember what other one. But I feel like we've done
Angels with Dirty Faces was sort of mob.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Well, I would say this is our first real foray into the mob.
I think this is the first one I could say is like this heavy, like Scorsese / Coppola type mob films. Because there's a type of mob film, and there's multiple types of mob films. There's your type of mob film, like the original Scarface, and all the stuff with Cagney and so on. And then there's stuff like this, which are kind of epics, and these are their own thing. Really,
yeah. And again, as we said before, this one was sort of it's it's about familia. It's
it's like Fast and Furious.
Yeah, just like exactly
like family.
Yeah. So you've got your impressions.
Yep. And so you've heard it today. If you like Fast and the Furious, this movie is exactly like that series. All right.
That could have been an interesting choice this last year, but anyway, we did not choose that one. For me, as I believe I did point out last week, this is definitely not a first viewing. I don't believe that I've had a viewing where I've watched just one or two of the films. I think I've seen them all the same number of times, but if that is not the case, it would be the third one that's the odd one out. But as we talked about last week, when Brittany was talking about it kind of like, I'd already seen a whole lot of it. The first movie is probably much more spoofed and referenced than the second movie is. So
true.
You've probably seen the first movie more, even if you've technically seen both of them the same. And partly, I guess, for that reason, the first movie does feel more familiar to me. It does feel more... also, the fact that I've read the book twice, and the first movie is pulled almost directly from the book. I misspoke before. This one is not so much an adaptation of the book as it is partially an adaptation of the book. The whole Vito Corleone storyline is pulled directly from the book, but the story revolving around Michael in the present day is more original to the film. So it's a sequel and a prequel, as I said before, but partially original and partially adaptation. And that's part of the reason as well, I think, why the first movie feels more familiar to me is, having read the book twice, obviously I know the story pretty darn well. This one, I would put it more or less on par with the first one in terms of the basic quality of the film, with a few exceptions. One being that I think it's true. I personally am rarely thrown all that badly by movies cutting back and forth with different timelines and that sort of thing. And a well-made movie, usually I follow along very well. But I watched this movie with someone who doesn't.
Yeah.
And so it was made very clear to me that it can be confusing. And also, there are small elements that were either better or worse. There's much less of Connie in this movie, which is a plus. And Talia Shire's performance is better, which is a plus. But unfortunately, they cut Clemenza out completely, except for the young Clemenza, which again,
Well, Clemenza's been killed off.
yeah,
Literally.
They killed him off, but
Because that Frankie guy is now living in where Clemenza was living.
yes. And incidentally, one of the other new characters of some importance is Frankie Pentangeli. Frankie Pentangeli, played by Michael V. Gazzo. We also have Hyman Roth, who's played by Lee Strasberg, apparently came out of retirement for the role. Senator Pat Geary, played by G.D. Spradlin. Al Neary, who's played by Richard Bright. And there's a few other new folks here. But the film does have moments, though, that are almost as famous as any moment in the first one. Probably the most famous line in the movie, and probably the most misquoted line in the movie is when Michael tells his brother, "I knew it was you, Frito. You broke my heart. You broke my heart." Yeah, that's a pretty powerful scene there, and
but I also think the very beginning as scene where is you basically get the story that okay, the father has done something wrong, so the guy who is the Don in Italy, I forget, Cici?
yeah.
Chichi. Okay, Chichi. He has put a hit out on the father, put a hit on the brother. The brother, and the brother is actually very freaking young.
Yeah.
Cici actually puts a hit out on him because he could grow to kill him. And the mother of Vito has brought him to the Don and is on her knees begging him not to kill him.
It's the self-fulfilling prophecy, because in his bloodthirsty nature to try and kill the person to prevent him from growing up to kill him, he guaranteed that Vito was going to kill him. And I mean, to me, that was a great stroke of writing. And that scene about where, the Fredo scene, I mean, that was the first scene I ever saw from that film, because, again, they showed it in The Freshman with the film school guy saying, "This is the single greatest scene in all of film." And I'm like, really?
Well, again, it is one of the most famous. And it really is interesting. This is one thing I do give the movie is the whole plot line with Fredo does have some good stuff going on. I do think that overall the movie, it is longer and it feels longer than the first movie.
But That first movie did not feel the 3-hour length. I felt that by the time I got to the end of this.
This one felt about 3 hours. So at least this one has an intermission, but yeah.
Very short intermission.
Right. But
I
did
still
actually
wonder.
I did actually use that to make dinner.
This could have been 2 films, in my opinion.
Yeah.
2 shorter films that would have made still a full trilogy.
I do like the idea, and obviously Coppola liked the idea. It was what he was apparently going for. But I do like the idea of showing Vito Corleone and Michael Corleone at roughly the same age on their different paths toward attempting to become on their different paths toward becoming the head of, the criminal empire or whatever. Neither one of them really started out intending to walk that path. And we get a reminder of that at the end of this movie, where we have that flashback scene that briefly includes a scene within a scene of the 4 brothers together, which was a nice little moment. I like that. But you're reminded of where Michael came from, and what he was a very different person before he took over the family business. But seeing Vito's beginning, you also see that but also even as he was clearly walking right into this criminal life, the contrast to the two, and that's something you wouldn't get as well if you split it into 2 movies, is the parallel contrast of the two, building their criminal empires, where one is doing it through favors and kindness and looking out for others, and the other one is doing it through much darker methods, and culminating in the assassination of his own brother. I mean, you don't get much darker than that. It's and as anti-family, you could say. So I think I see what Coppola was going for, and I think it does work better as one movie. It is a long movie. But anyway, let's, by the way, spoilers, people. For the handful of people that don't have a rough idea what happens in this movie, Anyway, we'll launch into it. As I think Dave alluded to already, you do get a brief bit of Michael right at the beginning, but basically the movie starts really back at the turn of the century, in Sicily, near Corleone, where, as we already mentioned, the local Don has taken out, I guess you could say, an agitator, someone who supposedly insulted him. And this is another thing peppered throughout the movie. You see people who also contrast with Vito. Don Cheech is not a good guy. He is not a nice guy. He's not looking out for others. He lives in luxury. He has armed guards all around him all the time because he needs them. Because he goes around killing people for insulting him.
In fact, the only other Don that we see in the movie is not a good Don either.
No, we'll get to him later. But yeah, it's it is interesting the way that they set up all these contrasts to Vito. And again, you got this guy who, he before the movie begins, he's killed Vito's father. His brother has gone to the hills to join the revolutionaries. they murder his brother in revenge, or again to help prevent problems down the road. And then the mother brings Vito to beg for his life, say that he is all I have left. He's dumb. He's nobody. He will never be a harm to you at all. And Dunchich is like, he'll get bigger. He'll grow up. And she's like, tells him to run away. And he turns around just in time to see Don Cheech shoot his mother in front of him. And so he falls in with some people who help him escape to America. And he does. And he comes in. They rename him Corleone, as they often did. They would just pick a name and give it to people. And he's from Corleone. You are now Vito Corleone, And I believe at that point we go back to the present day. And next time we visit Vito, he's a young man. He's grown up a little bit. But in the present day, Michael is in Lake Tahoe along the California-Nevada border. He is big into the Nevada gambling scene, but behind the scenes, like he's sort of a shadow figure, if you will. And it's his son Anthony's confirmation. Yeah. And they're doing a big to-do. It's this big thing, and they invite all these people. And one of the people invited is the senator, Senator Geary, who says some kind words in public, and then behind the scenes, he shows himself to be a right ass. Tries to make things difficult for Michael, or promises that he will. And meanwhile, we also see Connie show up with her would-be new husband. Apparently, she's gone through a couple since Carlo was killed. And she ends up storming off without any sort of blessing from Michael, etc., etc., But do y'all have any particular thoughts on these first couple of scenes? First kind of introduction to each of the timelines?
I couldn't believe when Don
Secchi?
mother. That was just, she's sitting there begging for Vito's life, and for him to order that, just, I realize she did attack him, but still,
Right.
Just, he just like blew her away in front of her kid. It was just like, wow, okay.
Right.
That's how it is. That's how reality was down in old Sicily.
Yeah, I like that.
That really shocked me. And also that during the funeral procession, that that one, the other child, her, got killed during the funeral procession.
Right.
I guess I was just kind of shocked by all that. I realized the gangsters and even, nowadays are ruthless, but
makes you kind of feel a little something for Vito, hey?
Yeah, and especially during the funeral procession, it's like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That party scene, I did find it funny that he's sitting there trying to get the band to play the kind of Italian music. Ended up playing "Pop Goes the Weasel" and stuff.
Yeah. That was also our introduction to Frankie Pentangeli, and he clearly enjoys his drink, and he was a little toasted when he went up and started talking to the band, and he's like, not an Italian among you, just kind of deeply offended at the idea. And, and he tries to get them to play. What did he say? He wanted to hear a tarantella, I think is what he said. And the pianist kind of caught on, but then he turns to the clarinetist and he's trying and trying. Finally, the guy starts on Pop Goes the Weasel, and it's like, and then the crowd laughs, and he just slinks off angry, and yeah, it was interesting. Yeah, and I should say a word about. I'm going to pick on the senator for a minute. One thing about this movie and the last one, I feel like it probably is accurate to the characters and to the time. I'm not going to hold it against the movie too much, but there definitely is language that is used that is better not used. And the senator makes no bones about it. He straight up tells Michael his thoughts on the Italian people. Later,
come in with your greased up hair.
Yeah. Later, at a congressional hearing, he's singing their praises. In the meantime, Michael did something to him to, convince him of the reasonableness of his position. But basically, during their meeting, he lets Michael know that he has heard that Michael's planning on taking over another hotel, another casino. And he's like, well, your other licenses were grandfathered in. I can't do anything about those. But if this one, we'll let you have it, but you're going to pay $250K. And after a minute, Michael's like, it's my understanding that it's a $20,000 license. And the guy's like, yeah, well, you're paying more. And that's where I believe where he goes on his rant talking about,
I'm going to pay nothing.
Right.
Zero.
Well, yeah. Michael's just sitting there absorbing it. And then after a minute, he's like, okay, I don't have to wait. I'll give you my answer now. I'm paying you nothing. In fact, you're going to cover the cost out of your own pocket. I was like, well, that's a ballsy statement.
Well, and the senator's all before he leaves, he leaves all huffy.
Oh yeah,
and he's like, "How you sound, dude? I've got muscle in different ways, and I'm not going to make it easy for you."
Yeah. But yeah, so they have that less than friendly tete-a-tete there. But yeah, it's like I said, I think somebody coming to these movies blind might be a little blown away by some of the language. If you look at it as it's a product of the time and they were trying to be the times, you can give it a little leeway there. But forewarning for anyone who's not seen the movies. But
I think I was a little the first time I watched them, because I realized I was watching gangster movies, but I don't think when David got me to watch these, I hadn't watched that many other ones, or I hadn't realized totally that they were maybe. So, yeah, I was definitely surprised about some of the things.
Right. Right. And there's some characters more than others. Like I said, the senator is one of them. Sonny is one of them as well. In his brief scene at the end of the movie, he very much reminds you that the things that Sonny says on the regular, like on the regular, are things that if James Caan was saying these in real life, he would have reason to feel ashamed. Let's just put it that way. But anyway, moving on. Well, actually, if anyone else have anything on these scenes before, I do think it's that Las Vegas scene where Kay, Diane Keaton, she, of course, married Michael late in the previous film. At this point, they have 2 kids, and she's pregnant again.
Yep.
She has a very good, very simple line that's a callback to the first movie, but it also really helps set up a lot of the conflict in this movie, which is like, Michael, you once told me that you were going legit. No, you once told me that the Corleone family would be completely legitimate in 5 years. And that was 7 years ago. And she just called him on it. And they really do. By the end of the movie, they reach a breaking point that gets...
They are broken by the end of the movie.
Oh, yeah. That Michael breaks a lot of relationships in this film, and
yep,
it's some of them get mended. Like he sends Connie packing in this scene, but by the end of the movie, she has come crawling back, and he basically welcomes her back. But he is straight up brutal in cutting off Frito and Kay.
Well, I'll tell you this much. Seeing this again, I had forgotten that we find out that Frito is actually circumcised.
Did we find that out?
He's laying as a little kid on a table, and they are literally showing his fucking penis.
Well, okay. That wasn't a circumcision. They said that he.
No, I know it wasn't a circumcision, but I couldn't help but notice that he was circumcised.
I wasn't looking that closely.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, the scene he's referring to is Frito apparently had a really bad case of pneumonia, and they were doing an interesting, I suppose you could call it an old wives' remedy. It was an interesting remedy, let's put it that way. But anyway, well, like I said, any other thoughts before we move on?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, I always thought that the husband to be of Connie was very pompous.
Yeah.
Especially when he said, "Can I have a drink?" You know,
what was
like
it?
demanding a drink.
It was a Merle, wasn't it? I don't know. That sounds about right. He seemed like a Merle. But at any rate, and again, with such a long movie, I'm probably going to get things out of order. I don't know. But I do believe that this Vegas sequence continues into the night, which is where we have an assassination attempt on Michael in his house, in his bedroom. People fire into the window, and he and Kay are able to roll off the bed and protect themselves. But needless to say, he is not pleased.
Nope.
That's putting it very mildly. He is not pleased.
And he goes to that Francis dude, and he literally like shouts at him those same words.
Yeah,
we
home. Yeah, there we get to see Michael shout a few times in this movie, not often, but a few times. But first, after spending the night kind of running through everything in his brain and trying to figure out all the angles, he calls Tom aside, And Tom has been, as we said at the end of the last movie, Michael kind of demoted him, if you will, from consigliere to family lawyer. And this movie, he makes very clear that there are things that Tom is involved in and there are things that Tom is not involved in. But after this assassination attempt, he calls Tom aside and he addresses it straight up. He's like, look, I know that you haven't always been happy that you're not involved. And there are reasons for this. And he says, and because you're not always involved, I know I can trust you. And he tells him straight up, he's like, I know that I trust you right now more than anyone else. And he tells him what he's thinking. He tells him, like, whoever did this hit is still on the property. And it turns out he was right, that they found the bodies. Apparently, whoever had, someone had already dispatched the would-be dispatchers. But they were found on the property. And by the next day, Michael has a plan in mind, and he tells Tom, he's like, you are going to take over the family as Don. He doesn't really specify that it's temporary. It's kind of, I guess, understood, or if he did, I missed it. I don't know if y'all heard that or not. I didn't catch anything about it being temporary, but I think it was kind of understood. But he tells Tom straight up, you're taking over as Don. I have things I need to do. And one of the things he needs to do is to go visit Hyman Roth in Miami. Was Roth mentioned in the first film? I can't remember. I don't think he was.
No.
Yeah.
And with Roth in mind, there's a deal that he needs to make with, I think, Roth. And I think it has something to do with Cuba.
Well, yes. Roth is essentially the Corleone contact in Miami, but he is a big player in his own right. Like, he's got his own whole thing. And
I think he's got his own militia.
Probably, although it's weird. He lives in just a normal little suburban household. You know, he looks like your average Miami retiree, which I'm sure is entirely on purpose. He probably has a mansion in Havana. I don't think they mentioned that, but it seems likely. But they do. Michael meets with him, tells him what went down, tells him that I believe it's Frankie Pentangeli. Frankie has an issue with some of the local. Is it the brothers? What were their names? The
two. Oh God.
Rosado, the Rosado brothers.
There we go.
And one of whom was played by a very young Danny Aiello and Carmine Caridi. But yeah, the Rosado brothers, apparently Frankie has taken over Clemenza's bit of the family after Clemenza died. And he feels that the Rosados are getting a little... I can't remember if he was more...
Too big for their britches.
That's what I was trying to say, but I was like, was it more they were getting too big for their britches, or he just felt like they needed to expand? I think it was more the former. But Michael goes to Roth and says that I think Frankie called the hit because he wants something to do with the Rosados. And he told Roth, I came to you to let you know there's probably about to be bloodshed. And he basically wanted the Roth's go ahead, if you will, to do something about it. And then he goes to Frankie Pentangeli and tells him, I know Hyman Roth was behind it. And
he pinches both against each other,
exactly,
kind of to try to figure out who the mole is
exactly.
on either side, and
Yeah,
he takes and tells Frankie or Francis to go and make this deal with the Rosada brothers that he is not willing to do anyways.
right.
And he's totally against it, but because Michael asks him to do it, he's going to.
He tells him that this is what Roth expects, and if we do this and we make him happy, he'll be complete. He doesn't necessarily say it quite this way, but essentially, he tells Frankie, if we make Roth happy, he'll get complacent, he'll get sloppy, he'll slip up, and we'll catch him. And that's kind of, the message he gives Frankie. And so Frankie reluctantly goes along with it. He goes to the Rosados, but meanwhile, Roth has ordered them to go ahead and bump him off. And one of them, apparently Danny Aiello, ad-libbed this line, and Coppola loved it so much he kept it, which was Michael Corleone says hello. But that leaves Frankie thinking that Michael double-crossed him. And he ends up turning evidence later for this reason. We find this out because the would-be assassins sucked horribly at their job, and they were interrupted by a cop, and it just turned into a shit show, and Frankie isn't killed after all, but basically everyone else there is. So, yeah, that didn't go down according to plan. And meanwhile, in Havana, Michael and Roth are both down there as representatives of various American interests who are doing business directly with the president of Cuba on the eve of the revolution. And you hear a bunch of people all through Viva Fidel, Viva, all this stuff, Viva Fidel. And this leads to tension because Michael has not brought the money he was supposed to bring. And he makes it clear that he's nervous about the rebels. And Roth is furious about this. But meanwhile, Frito has showed up, and Michael tells him, hey, take everyone out on the town. That's, and Frito's kind of like, yeah, that's what I do. Okay, Frito, he knows how to have a good time. Yeah.
So I do like how they say about Roth. They say basically he's been dying of the same heart attack for the last 20 years.
Yes. And apparently this was partly to accommodate Lee Strasberg. He came out of retirement to play the role, and he was not feeling well. So they decided, okay, well, we'll say this character is ailing, that he's sick. But yeah, they, Frito takes them out, shows them the sights. They all have, good time there. And this is also on the eve of New Year's, basically. This is like right before New Year's and whatever. And I believe it was before the party, if I'm remembering correctly. It was before the party that Roth and Michael had their they have their discussion where he makes very clear that he's displeased with Michael's reticence. And Michael, I think, tells Frito that Roth will not see the new year. But this is also at the party. This is also where he tells Frito that he has that famous moment where he grasps him both hands on the face, gives him a kiss, and says, "I know it was you, Frito. You broke my heart." And that was, and that kind of starts a weird, like, there's a weird thing between them for the rest of the film. That's like, when was it? It was a little while after Frito runs away. He runs away. He hightails it out of there. Michael tries to get him to come with him. Like, he's like, I'm the only way out of Havana tonight, because this is when the revolution happens. A bunch of things happen all at once, basically. One of Michael's assassins tries and fails to take out Roth, which is pretty sad, but he abysmally fails to do so. But Roth is definitely not in good shape after this. Also, the revolution happens, and we also Michael basically flees Havana. Again, he tries to get Frito to come with him. Frito apparently does find his own way out. And everyone is pretty much every man for himself, because it's shit hit the fan, as it were. And then I'm trying to remember if it goes from there to Back to the Past, right? I think it's the next sequence. Or do we have scenes back in Nevada first? Okay.
What did you say?
I said, does it go back to the past at that point, or does it go back to Nevada? I can't remember offhand.
I think it goes back to the past.
Okay.
Because what of the past have we talked about? Have we talked about?
Basically, the intro at this point. So
okay, so let's backtrack a bit with the past segments a little bit.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out when the second one was, because they were kind of spaced out. They were not frequent.
They were.
Yeah.
And I think it goes. Okay. I'm trying to track back in my mind. I do believe that there are several moments where Vito,
right.
He has found a job as I think it has something to do with a general store.
Right. Well, we're not quite there yet, but yeah,
okay. But there are several moments where he comes across this guy who's dressed all in white, and he's apparently a Don, and they cross paths several times.
We're not there yet. I feel like that was the second time that we saw Robert De Niro as Vito. I don't think that Don showed up in the first flashback. You guys can let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I feel like the first one was basically just establishing him as a young man in New York. He's got a wife. They've already got their son, Santino. And they're kind of struggling, but they're getting by. He's got a friend that he goes to see shows with, and actually, yeah, it might have been toward the end of this sequence that the Don showed up.
Because the best friend wants him to see this new actress.
Yeah.
That is his angel, and he's also married, and he's like, she's okay, but I am only for my wife and my son,
Right.
But I guess a guy stands right in their viewpoint, and he tells the guy to sit the fuck down, and he turns around and he realizes he's like this Don guy that
Right.
everyone's scared about, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." You know,
What was it? Was it Don? What did he call himself? It wasn't. What was his? What was his name?
Godfather 2.
Was it Don? Was it Don Francesco? I don't.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. No, I don't think that was him. But anyway, we'll get it figured out. I'm sure it wasn't Roberto, was it? No. Brandon, you remember that?
Not off the
I
top
do-
of my head.
I
Yeah,
do believe it was Don Francesco.
it could have been.
There's no other Don listed besides
Hmm.
Don Sitchy.
Yeah, I think that might be it. But whatever the case, this guy, this guy is he is clearly rather full of himself. He is kind of the cock of the walk, as they say, you know, like he goes around.
Wait, it's Panucci.
Oh, Fanucci, yes. Don Fanucci.
Don Panucci.
Yes. He yeah, that was it. Okay. Yeah, the credits don't list his Don, they just say Fanucci. Yeah, that was it. He, like I said, he's a right ass. He he goes around, he's threatening the theater director, whose daughter apparently is the one that Corleone's friend is so hot on. He also, Corleone works for his friend's father, is a grocer, general store. And Fanucci comes in and introduces this kid as his nephew and says, I need him to work. You're going to give him a job, right? And that's when the grocer goes over to a young Vito and says, I'm so ashamed. I'm so sorry. I hate to even ask this.
And Vito already knows.
Yeah, before he can get it out, Vito just looks at him. He's like, you have to give my job to him. And he's like, yes. And Vito's like, it's okay. And then he's leaving, and the grocer comes up with a box full of goodies, and Vito waves him off. He's like, no, you keep it. No, I won't forget this. You keep it. You know, and it's like,
I would have accepted it.
I mean, he could have used it, yes, but it's but again, this is the difference in Vito's approach. I guess the idea of I gotta say, it's sort of the idea of reaping and sowing, you know, like the whole, if you put good things out, you will get good things. Yeah, Vito, of course, especially as he gets older, does some pretty shady things to back up those, you know, but he does say, in, you know, just like he did in the first movie, you know, I never forget a favor. He says things like, you know, I won't forget this. He says things like, you know, he's very much a I will put myself out there for you because I know that when I need you to do the same, you will do the same. You know, it's like an article of faith for him that it will happen, you know.
Whereas Michael, to know what kind of man Michael is a conversation that I think Tom has with him later, and he's like, He goes to Michael and he says, "Do you have to kill everyone that you come across?" He's like, "No, just my enemies."
Right. Yeah. No, I only kill my enemies. It's like, but you have so many of them. And as we said already, killing one's enemies more often than not creates new enemies. You know, it's one of the it'd be really easy to jump into a political commentary there, but it is a very important observation that I think a lot of people really could understand or could use to understand that if you put violence on other people, you give other people a reason to want to put some on you. Do you know what I mean? Like, and that was a major difference in Michael's approach versus Vito's. Michael made a lot more enemies
Mm-hmm.
than Vito did, and a big part of the reason why was his different approach in that.
Well, he started his reign with going and doing a murder, a revenge murder spree.
For all intents and purposes, yeah. He
He killed the cop and the cocaine dealer.
well, that was prior, but yeah,
Yes.
but he does do his own version of the Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yeah, he does.
Yes. And that really, yeah, that was kind of the pivotal moment where he basically became the new Godfather, essentially.
It's interesting how they do a mirror effect of the first and the second film at the end.
Right.
Because they do end with the same type of violence. I look at Michael, though, as somebody who was transformed by various events in his life. He could have been something else.
Right.
But all these events shaped him to be what he was. And whereas you've got the events that shape Vito are more events where he sees people around him that he wants to protect. With Michael, he just keeps getting stabbed in the back by everybody that's close to him. So he trusts fewer and fewer people, which is why he's much colder and much nastier.
And his downfall will ultimately be much quicker.
And on this movie, it's no accident, I think, that in this movie, he does have the famous quote. And I don't think it originated in this movie. I'm sure it's much older. Like, I want to say this might even be from Sun Tzu or something like that. But the famous line, "Keep your friends close and your enemies closer." I believe it is Michael who does say that at one point. But one of them does say it at one point in this movie. And that does seem to be his approach is, and that whole thing of going to Roth and Frankie and telling each of them, "Hey, I know it was the other one." And then, and then he goes to Frito and he's like, "I know it was you." And all these people, like, he is playing people in order to try to smoke out who the true enemy is. And meanwhile, basically trying to be friend or appear to be a friend so that, because if someone runs away, he loses so much of that opportunity, And that's, I'm pretty sure that idea is from the Art of War, but I could be wrong. I'm definitely no expert on that one, but at any rate, we also have I think it's that first flashback with Vito as a young man with De Niro I think that is the one where we are briefly introduced to Clemenza. Bruno Kirby playing a much younger Clemenza, where he basically just one night he just taps on Corleone's window, and he's like, "Here," he's like, "Here, hold this a second." I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically it. And later, Vito opens it up and sees that it's a bunch of guns. And then,
but he is asked later whether he looked inside the package or not, and he said, "I don't have an interest in looking inside what is not my business."
Yeah, yes, he does. But at any rate, trying to think, like, do we know? Let's see, what would be the next sequence here?
In the old part or the new part? The
Well,
old.
I can't remember if the next sequence is the old or the new. But
Well, I'll just continue with the old part a little bit. The next sequence in the old part is where I believe Clemente has said, I know of this rug, and I think your wife would love it.
Well, this is where the question of did you look in the package? But he's like, I appreciate you doing this for me, and I know how to repay a favor. A friend of mine has a rug. Yeah. And so they go to his friend's house, and he's like, oh, shoot, he's not here. Oh, the key's not there. Oh, and he like jimmies the lock. Oh, well, what do you know? It's open. It's like, and they go in, and basically Vito's kind of standing guard. I think at this point he knows this is not on the up and up, but he's just kind of playing along.
Yeah, and the shadow of a cop shows up at the door.
Right.
And Clemenza looking, and he actually goes like to the side and puts his gun up, just in case the cop decides to investigate even further.
Right.
But evidently, the cop didn't see nothing behind the shade, so he walked off. But they were able to walk, evidently, off with this big, long Oriental rug, and I feel like, even in the cruddier areas, don't you think that these people are seeing this like big, long extension of a rug being walked down the street?
Right.
Every pickpocket in America is probably watching this expensive ass rug be carried into this like mildly sparse apartment.
Well, it's not sparse anymore. That rug was almost too big for the apartment. It's like, it's kind of amusing. They're like tamping it in, and it's clearly, they don't show them cutting the rug, but you almost get the feeling they had to cut the rug because that was a tight fit.
Yeah, it certainly was.
Yeah, nice rug, but
but then the next moment that we get in Italy is apparently by now Vito is in cahoots with Clemenza and one other in a business of I would say acquiring goods.
Well, the one other was Tessio, the guy who Abe Vigoda played in the first film. So yeah, they've basically they've been running a successful racket, and Finucci comes up to Vito and says, "Look, I understand you and your friends. Y'all are doing well for yourselves. Well enough that you should be able to give me enough to wet my beak, And he gives them a number, and Vito just kind of coolly says, I tell you, I'd be happy to do it, but I've got to talk to my friends first. And so he goes to his friends, and I believe this is the introduction of the young Tessio.
Mhm.
But they're talking, and he's like, "Look, I tell you what, each of you give me $50, and I'll go make a deal with him." Essentially,
I'll make him an offer he can't refuse.
yeah. He didn't quite put it that way, but
He did put it that way.
oh yeah, no, I think he said. Well, he said, "I make him an offer he don't refuse."
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that was his first time saying that. It was good times. But he goes to Finucci, and he puts some money down on the table, and Finucci puts his hat on it, and he's like, "I believe there is $100 under that hat." And he pulls his hat up. "I was hoping I was wrong," or something to that effect.
And he almost tries to give it back.
He almost tries to give it back, and he almost runs Vito out. And Vito just calmly, just basically tells him this, I don't have much money. I will find a way to pay you, or something like that. And Finucci's like, "Kid, you got balls." He's actually amused and impressed that Vito is willing to stand up to him that way. Obviously, he could have had a very different reaction, but he chose to be very impressed and amused by this. And I think he sees Vito as someone that he wouldn't mind having work for him. That's, he basically leaves. And Vito follows him from the rooftops.
Yep.
And
he actually pays like some money on like this post or whatnot that apparently is like some kind of like raffle.
Right.
And he kind of watches him as it goes along. And at the end of one of the rooftops, he actually uncovers like a weapon that he has like wrapped up
Right.
in something, and he
Well,
walks.
He has stashed a gun and a wrapping on the roof of Finucci's apartment, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and then he goes in and undoes the light bulb outside Finucci's door, and then he just kind of hangs out. And of course, Finucci goes to the light bulb to try to fix it.
That's what he was hoping he was going to do.
Yep. And then that's where he just raises, he's got the gun and his arm wrapped in a towel to kind of muffle the shot. And then he times it because there's a party going on outside. So like he kind of times it so that when the fireworks are going off is when the fireworks are going off.
Yeah.
And Finucci doesn't make it, of course. And you kind of don't really... basically, he has to put out the towel because it's caught on fire. But once he does that, he basically walks out the front door and just, joins the crowd.
Yep.
And, yeah.
And we might as well talk about the last segment in Old Sicily, because I think there's only one more where there is a lady who is a tenant of a landlord that apparently doesn't.
New York.
Yeah.
They do go back to Sicily, but this is the last. Yeah, the New York scene. There's an old lady who her landlord was giving her shit because she had a dog, I believe it was. And and her kid, he loves that dog, but apparently the landlord got so upset that he has now said she's out, just straight up, she's out. So Vito goes to him, tries to be reasonable with him, give him her view, and it's like she has nowhere else to go. She's just an old lady. She's got a kid. And the guy's like, no, I've already got another family. They're moving in. I can't tell them to leave. I'd look bad, And Vito's like, she's got nowhere else. She can't, And finally, he kind of talks him into, okay, I'll see what I can do. And he's like, and of course the dog stays. And that's like, or wait, did he say that then or at the next meeting?
I think
now he tells him when he gives him the money, he initially says, oh yeah, send the dog stays. So he's just like, he gives him back the money. No, it's all done. I'm not doing this. Okay. She's out.
Right. He gives him a wad of cash. Like he's like, here, I'll pay you. He asks him how much the rent is. He asks him how much more he's charging the new tenants. And he's like, well, here's 6 months rent right up.
And you could ask around a little bit about who I am.
Yes, he does say that. He's like,
they will tell you who I am.
Right. And but then the guy gets really huffy and upset when he says, and the dog stays. And he's like, no. Yeah. But then we go to another scene where this is the first time we see his office. Like he's set up shop. The next scene is where they're going to Sicily to help set up the olive oil import business, a staple of the Corleone family. But for right now, they're setting up shop. They're getting ready to go. And the guy comes in, hat in hand. Why didn't you tell me you were Don Corleone? And I did not know. I'm so sorry. Here's your money. Or I don't need any money. She stays for free. And all that stuff. And he's just so, basically groveling. And then I don't think it was Clemenza. I can't remember who it was that was hanging out there with. It was like one of Corleone's folks. The guy goes to open the door and can't open it. And he's so flustered, he can't open the door. And then the assistant just goes over and just undoes the latch and it opens right up. It's like,
it's kind of funny.
Yeah. And apparently Coppola set that up. He did not tell the guy that you won't be able to open the door, but he rigged the door. And the other actor knew how to fix it. It was a very simple thing. But he didn't tell that actor about it. So it set up a nice little moment of physical comedy there. And then, of course, we do go to Sicily, where we see a young Don Tomasino, who is Vito's, basically his partner in Sicily. Like he's the one who's going to be, I guess, growing the olives and providing them.
And the one that ultimately helps Michael when he is on the run later on.
Yes. And you find out ultimately how Tomasino got the limp that you remember seeing in the last film. Basically, Tomasino brings Vito to Don Cheech, who is now an old, decrepit has-been, but is apparently still the big power in those parts. And he tells him, look, we're starting up a business. This is my American partner. We would like your blessing. And they get his blessing. And then the guy, this is, let me see your partner. And Vito walks a little closer. He's like, I don't see so well. Come a little closer. He's like, what are you, Vito Corleone? Oh, you took the name of the place. Yes. And he's like, and who is your father? And he says his father, what was it? Antonio Andolini, I think was his, whatever his father's name. He tells him. And that's when Don Cheech realizes who this kid is. And Vito stabs him and, and as they're leaving, the guards spring into action and one of them shoots Tomasino in the leg. And that's, again, he had a pretty notable limp later on. But they get away and they start their business, and yeah, that pretty much does wrap up the old part, more or less. Again, if there's anything I forgot, or if y'all want to, Brandon, Tammy, anything you want to throw in that we skipped past or that you wanted further comment on?
Tammy, what did you think about what Don Cici got? Do you think he deserved it?
Yeah, in their eyes.
Yeah. All right. So, so I guess back to the present day. And of course, that whole thing was split up into 3 or 4 parts, but we originally, apparently, it was cut much more regularly, and test audiences didn't like it, so Coppola recut it with fewer of those. It is easier to follow when there's just a few cuts, could say. But basically, we find out that a few things. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else between Havana and the congressional hearings. I feel like maybe there was, but I'm drawing a blank on this.
Nothing really all that much. I don't think, because the Havana hearings, that was something different, because ultimately these guys were planning on indicting him like right then and there.
Oh yeah, I mean it was a real kangaroo court, as it were. Apparently, the senator who was I think he was the chairperson of the hearings, was apparently in Roth's pocket, or at least that's what one of them claimed at one point. And again, Senator Geary was on the hearing, but at one point he makes a big show, a big to-do about, I have somewhere else I need to be. But before he does that, he gives this really over-the-top speech about what wonderful people Italian Americans were, what wonderful constituents they were. And again, given his previous treatment of Michael, you know that he was speaking right out of his ass. But you also know that Michael had something on him. But at any rate, and honestly, I feel like it was in the movie, but I can't remember. I don't know if anyone else remembers that.
Yeah, the senator was definitely doing a good song and dance number.
Yeah. But at any rate, they bring this one guy up, this guy who also is known as Cheech, who is like a low-level operative who is a pretty good witness for the prosecution, making it sound like Michael is the head of this criminal outfit. But he says that, well, I never heard it from him directly. There was always a buffer. And for some reason, that was really funny. Everyone enjoyed that. But then it's Michael's turn to testify. And they ask him several direct questions that he clearly perjures himself. To anyone who's watched the 2 previous films, it's clear that Michael has committed, by Tom's count, 5 counts of perjury. He doesn't even try to tell the truth or a half-truth. He just straight up denies everything. Mm-hmm. And then the senator in charge of it assures them that we have a witness who can actually, Michael after 5 questions, asks if he can read a statement. And the senators make a little bit of fuss about it, but then, and I believe this was the part where Senator Geary did his thing. I could be remembering that wrong. But basically, Tom basically speaks up and he says, he has a right to do this. So Mike reads his statement, which is, again, an emphatic denial of any wrongdoing. Further bullshit upon bullshit upon bullshit. But at the end of the statement, he challenges the senators to come up with one good witness who can actually prove their case. And after he does this, the senator in charge of the hearings says, we will recess until, I think he says until Monday or something, when we will produce a witness to these events, basically answering Michael's challenge directly. And we come to find out that Frankie Pentangeli is their star witness.
Mm-hmm.
That he had not only survived the assassination attempt on him, but that he believed Michael was behind it, that he had been double-crossed. And they got him to sing. Of course, after much fretting, Michael and Tom pull a very interesting maneuver that actually works. They bring Pentangeli's brother from Sicily. He shows up in court, does not say a thing, just shows up.
Well, he really can't because he knows no English.
Well, he could have spoken to, his brother or whatever, but
True.
He basically just shows up. Frankie sees him, and there is this unspoken communication. And when Frankie goes to testify, he just denies everything. He's like, I just told them what they wanted to hear. And basically, their star witness becomes a flop. And embarrasses the shit out of that one senator. And of course, Frankie is sent to jail. Of course. And I believe it's around. Okay, yes. I did skip an important. I knew I did.
Yes. I just remembered.
Yes, when Michael comes back from Havana, it's winter. And this is where Tom meets him and says, Kay lost the baby. He says
basically had a miscarriage, and he gets mad at him because he wants to know what sex it was.
Yes, and Tom's like, it was 3.5 months. I can't.
He really didn't know.
I don't know. And I believe it was also not long after this that Michael does have his discussion with Frida, and he does have this discussion where he basically he grills Frida. He's like, I need to know everything. You need to tell me everything. And Frida assures him that he didn't know they were going to do a hit. He didn't know. He admit it. One thing, and before Michael confronts Frida in Havana, there had been a couple of awkward moments. One is where I think it's Al Neary that, or no, Johnny, what's his name? Johnny.
I wish you would have hung out with me before that shit happened.
Right. Johnny Ola. That's what it was. Johnny Ola. When they had their night on the town, or they were supposed to have their night on the town, when Frida is introduced to Johnny Ola, it's so obvious that they actually know each other, and Michael does pick up on it. And then later, while they're partying, Frida lets slip that old man Roth would never go for this, but Johnny, he's cool, or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, but he clearly shows a previous relationship with the two of them. And again, Michael's sitting right there and catches the whole thing. And it's a pretty big slip up on Frito's part. But later, Frito would have been better off just saying that he knew that, but pretending he didn't, they say about lies, you keep them simple, But at any rate, they have this discussion where Frito finally lets out that he is pissed off that he was passed over. And it's like, and Michael just says, well, it's what Dad wanted. It's what Father wanted, And Frito's like, well, what about what I want? And that's where we kind of realize.
Did you ever think that because I was the older brother that I was shafted? Right.
And he knows that they all think he's not as smart, that he's not, but they, you get the impression that and I could be wrong, I don't think they ever fully fleshed out exactly what was promised to Frito, except that he was promised something of his own. I do know that. He was promised something of his own. And
he never got his cut.
He never got his cut, yeah. But after Michael grills him and has this discussion, he just tells him, he's like, you are dead to me. I no longer have a brother. He's like, and he goes on. He's like, if you're going to come visit our mother, you need to let me know a day in advance so that I'm not there. Like, he cuts him out. It's cold. It's like,
you are no longer to be anywhere near any casinos.
Right.
You are no longer to be seen anywhere near the Corleone compound.
Right.
You are no longer allowed to be in walking distance of any of his family.
Right. And he basically cuts him out of the family and the business. And he does acknowledge that Frito has a right to see their mother. And that, again, he just says, let me know a day in advance, But mostly, yeah, he just throws him to the wolves. He's like, I'm done with you.
And shortly, wasn't it shortly after that is when Connie comes and that's after
the hearings that she comes back and
that's after him and his wife have it out.
Yes,
because she is gone, and she mentions that Kay is not there.
Yeah, that's a little bit later, definitely. But yeah, so we have the whole. Anyone have any thoughts on that scene with Frito? On that one,
I thought that it was just like, wow, he like you guys said, he just totally cut him out. I mean, I guess Michael had the power to totally eliminate him if he wanted to.
Right.
So it was kind of like, well, you're getting to live, so.
Wow.
Well, and he does hint that Frito might be on borrowed time, but not directly to Frito. It's like, I think as he's
leaving, he tells one of his henchmen, men, wait as long as his mother is alive.
He says nothing happens to him while our mother is alive.
Yeah,
right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I really think that a lot of it was an internal struggle with him, and that whole impassioned plea that Frito makes. That's really what changes it from Michael, because you can see a shift. Because Michael had been, up until that point, Frito was that one safe relative for him, that one brother that he felt was always thinking, was the good thinking one, as far as like, good thoughts. He had valued family. He always gave him some of the benefit of the doubt, even after the betrayal. But after that, it just, you could tell that there was that switch right on his head after Fredo gave that.
Well, I
That
think
was great acting in that point.
Well, he did say, I mean, again, there was that scene earlier where he told Tom straight up, "You are the only one I trust right now." Like,
Mhm.
he already didn't trust Frito,
Because
but he still loved him as a brother.
when you have that, and you also have the scene where um, where his wife comes in there after the trials, and she tells him about the whole stuff with the baby and so on.
Yeah.
And really and truly, the last close family member, other than Tom, has betrayed him in his mind. I know my
Well-
mother. I mean, not my mother. No, actually, my mother did. My mother stopped watching at that scene when she first watched it.
Oh,
My wife, however, as soon as it came to that scene, she automatically hated Michael and said he's just a scumbag. He's worthless. He has no redeeming values after that.
oh wow.
So, but but to me, that was, those two were the last straws. People that he felt he could trust, that just betrayed him at the end.
Right.
And
I got the
hear from Fredo that it was all about, he felt like he needed to get his, and even though he didn't want anyone to get hurt, he was willing to let it happen. I really feel like that was that last straw for him. That's
Right.
okay, well, your fate is sealed.
Well, and also, again, one of the reasons he didn't trust Frito, and the main reason why Frito was passed over in the first place, is that he's not stupid, but he's nowhere near as intelligent as Michael. He's not even anywhere near as intelligent as Santino was. He is average intelligence. And on top of that, he's very trusting. He's very naive and gullible. And that's a dangerous combination in this business. And I think when he
He's soft.
will know not only his motivations, but he also insisted, I had no idea what they were going to do. It just really drove home to Michael that Frito will always be tripped up. He will always be a liability. And that was kind of, I think, where Michael was thinking, like, even if I were to continue to keep him around as family, I don't think he saw him as safe at all, even before this point, because he was already a liability. But I think at this point, it's like,
and the abortion news was another nail in his coffin too.
well, again, that was a little later. That was after the hearings, and I believe it was right after the hearings, because I think Kay had stuck by his side through it. And then she's like, I'm leaving with the kids. And he's like, well, you mean tomorrow? We're going tomorrow. And she's like, no, I'm leaving with the kids and we're not coming back. And of course
and she also came at him and was like, I knew you were going to get off scot-free. So all you had to do was just bring the brother in and just to have him appear.
She asked, like, what did you do? And he's like, it was between the brothers. I had nothing to do with it. It was between the brothers. And honestly, yeah. What's that?
I was going to say back to Fredo is, I always got the impression, even with the first movie, that he did not have the right amount of trust in the family did not have trust in him to do the things that the family needed to be done,
Right.
and mainly because, like you said, he was pretty gullible, Um, he wasn't exactly stupid, but he just did not make good decisions that made him
Right.
look nuts, that made him look stupid,
That
and
yeah.
that's that's why he got passed over. And um,
Hmm.
I think deep down inside, though, he was trying to be a good guy and trying to be a good person and trying to be there for the family. He just you know he I think he was trying too hard. He thought maybe if he
And
did this,
I think he
this would
was.
work, or if he did this, that would work, or if he did this, it would be helpful. And everything that he got involved with just backfired every time. So,
Well, I believe he was a victim of what his father wanted him to be turned out to be, just like Michael. He wanted him to be a lawyer at first.
Right. Or a politician or some such thing. Yeah. Yeah.
and then in that back when it goes back in time thing.
Mhm.
Well, Fredo is the only one that kind of stuck up for Michael when Michael said that he didn't want to follow, um, he, you know, everything.
Well,
He wanted to do his own thing.
well, when they yeah, that's like already all the way at the very end. But yeah, when Michael announces that he's enlisted, Fredo's the one who congratulates him. Yeah, that was the yeah. So so yeah, the scene with Kay was very interesting. And I think this is the scene. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering correctly. There was one scene that I was just like, this is the scene where you know that you don't want to to screw with Al Pacino. It's like he's sitting there simmering in rage that gets stronger with every passing second, but it's not until he blows up that really Thomas Vito's legacy. Yeah, yeah, in a way. The
Yeah, because he's
Do you
the only.
guys do you
but
guys
Yeah,
yeah,
go.
blame him for getting
what
as mad as he did at Kay though?
no, not entirely, especially given where they came from and whatever. But basically, this is where we find out that
She basically murdered the
well,
unborn child
well,
out of spite and the fact that she thought that Michael himself was evil.
yeah. I was going to say I wouldn't say it was out of spite, but basically, she. This is where she's saying that, like, this is not. I just can't do this anymore. What have you? And then Michael's like, look, I know you're upset about the miscarriage. I know you lost. And then she starts crying and but she gets this weird look and she's like, oh my, oh, she's like, oh, you, basically like, oh, you poor child. Like, no, you have no idea. And then that's when she tells him, she's like, it wasn't a miscarriage. It was an abortion, just like this marriage. And
And
yeah,
the thing is, if she didn't want to bring any more of his children into the world,
right.
she could have gotten her tubes tied. She could have gotten a hysterectomy. She could have gotten birth control. I mean, she had options if she did not want to bring any more children into the world.
Yeah.
And she could have probably gotten the easiest one would have probably been the birth control because she could have probably gotten that without him even knowing.
Right.
Well, she did not. By doing what she did, I think she was totally wrong, and you know what? I think she deserved what she got.
Although technically, at this time period, is still the 40s and the 50s. How available
At
are
this point, we're
contraceptives?
talking late 50s. Yeah.
Late 50s. You got to talk time period. How available were contraceptives at this point in time for women? Not as much.
Actually, pretty available at this time because in the 60s, where this is taking place, that's when the pill became a big thing.
Was
So,
this as far as the 60s by this point?
yeah, I want to say it was late 50s, early 60s by the end.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Considering who she was, she could have gotten it.
Yeah.
But the problem, there is one problem when it comes to it. Now, with those types of contraceptives, you got to keep in mind, back in those days, there was a big difference in women's rights.
Right.
Women couldn't just go on birth control if they were married. They had to always have their husband's permission.
And
women up until the 70s had to get permission from the husband to get a credit card.
And even if she had more rights, even if this was a little bit of a more, like, let's say the 80s, 90s, whatever, do you think she would have been able to walk into a store anywhere in Nevada and it would not get back to Michael? I mean, that would have, I'm sure she knew that. Like, that if she had done something like that, it would have gotten back to him. Like, she must have chosen wisely to be able to do the other thing without it getting back to him. I mean,
well, I would have thought that that the husband would have had to have been there for the abortion at this point in time, too. But I guess not.
I'm not sure what the laws in Nevada were at the time, or she may have gone over to California. Who knows? It's Lake Tahoe is right on the border. So it could be a number of things, or it could have even been in New England because that's where her parents were. I don't know, but but whatever the case, he of course is upset, to put it mildly, and they have words. Like at one point, I think it might have been before this, but it might have been after his tantrum. But she looks at, she's like, at this moment, I feel no love for you, and I never thought that would happen, But he tells her, he's like,
do you think I will let you ever go? Do you really think that I will ever let you have our children?
Right. But basically, later we find out that she is apparently allowed visitation when he's not around. Kind of similar to what he told me. Yeah. Essentially, you get the impression that again, it's the same basic thing he told Frito, like that he wants nothing to do with her. He will not see her, will not talk to her. When she takes too long saying goodbye to the kids and he walks in the other side, they just stare each other down before she just leaves, and it's like it's pretty awkward. But yeah. So again, Michael basically burning bridges in every direction by the end of the movie.
Yeah, he even tells Tom to go to go almost. But he tells him, "Hey, why do you insult me so?" So I take it you're staying. Yes, I am.
Right. Yeah. So, and then we get to the big finish, the big finale, where we come to find out that Hyman Roth is indeed still alive. We kind of knew he was, but the characters find out he is alive. He sought asylum in Israel and was denied. Israel said, no, we don't particularly want you to move here. So he's trying to find a new home. And apparently no one will take him. So he's coming back to Miami, but he faces charges if he sets foot on U.S. soil. And basically, Tom's like, you can't reach him. And Michael's like, if history's taught us anything, is anyone can be killed, basically. And so he orchestrates a slightly less, it's a little bit less big and bold and brassy than the end of the first movie. But he sets it up so that there's basically a kamikaze assassin waiting for Roth at the airport, who kills Roth and is gunned down immediately by all the security. Tom meets with Frankie in prison, and they have a good chat, some cigars, whatever, good chat. And Tom reminds Frankie that, oh, you're a student of history, right? You enjoy, and gets Frankie talking about the Romans, and essentially gets him to hang his own noose. Basically, in a sense, Tom gets Frankie to remind himself that
first he says what happens next,
Yeah, right. But
And-
basically, an unspoken agreement is reached that Frankie will do himself in, but his family will never go hungry. His family will be cared for. That is basically said without being said. And before long, Frankie is found in the bathtub with his wrists slit. And then we have the whole thing that happens at Tahoe, where Frito has been teaching young Anthony to fish. And it's been a bonding between them. And Frito has been doing his best to be a good uncle and trying. Oh, okay. We skipped a part. The mother passed away. Michael,
Yes.
Frito, and Connie's mother did pass away. That was what brought Connie back into the picture, I believe. She came back for the funeral, and she was baffled at this. She's like, "Where's Michael? He's not here." Or no, Frito says, "Where's Michael? He's not here." And Tom's like, "I can't tell you that." And Connie's like, "Where is Michael?" "Oh, he's in the boathouse." What's going on? And that's where she goes to speak to Michael in the boathouse. And she basically, first of all, she basically begs to come back. She's like, "I want back in the family. I want to be with my kids. I'm tired of running around." She tells him straight up, "I was so angry at you for so long, and that's why I've been destroying myself. And I'm over that. I'm ready to come back and be part of the family." And he lets her do it. And then she speaks up for Frito. She's like, "What's going on with you two? What? He's your brother, And so Michael comes back, sees Frito. They kind of have their, I think they embrace. I can't remember. I think they do. But they come back. They seemingly make peace. And from there, Frito, again, he's allowed back in the family. That's where he starts teaching Anthony to fish. And, he knows he's on a short leash, but he's trying to be good. He's trying to make Michael love him again and whatnot. And, I honestly don't know I don't think Connie was in on this. But she tells, and Frito's getting ready to go out in the boat with Anthony, and Connie comes and says, "Michael's getting ready to go to Reno. He wants Anthony to come with him." And so he gets out of the boat, and Frito's like, "Okay, let's go fish." And he goes out with the guy that was like Michael's right-hand guy or what have you. And then we have the scene where we see the guy raise a gun. We go to the window. We see Michael watching while we hear the gunshot. And then we see Frito slump forward. You don't actually see it. It's cut a little bit different, but I think that's for the better. And then I think at that point, then we go to that flashback sequence of everyone back at the dinner table. It's Pop's birthday. Apparently, it's also the day the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor because Sonny has got a bug up his ass about that. Supposedly, Marlon Brando was offered a chance to be in this scene, and he did not want to do it because of the way he felt he was treated with the first movie. So they wrote it around him, but they have this scene with all the kids. They've got Michael and Sonny and Frito and Tom, Connie. This is where Connie meets Carlo. Apparently, he's a friend of Sonny's. And Tom and Sonny both are like trying hard to fix her up. I mean, maybe they didn't know what an asshole he was, or maybe he became an asshole later. I don't know. But whatever the case. And Tessio shows up with the cake. You know, we got a little cameo from Abe Vigoda. Incidentally, cameo from James Caan. You know, everyone's back, basically. Apparently, the guy that played Clemenza, Robert... I'm drawing a blank on his name. He declined to be in the movie. Basically, he originally was going to be the one that betrayed them, and Frankie took over the role. One of the reasons why they wrote him out was that Clemenza, that the actor Richard S. Castellano, apparently wanted to write his own dialogue and wanted a lot of money. But also, he's not naturally as portly as Clemenza was. And for health reasons, he didn't want to gain that weight back. And, you know, I can't really blame him for that, you know, but that was apparently why he wasn't in it. They didn't want to do that.
So they killed him off like they did Marty's father in Back to the Future.
Yeah, in a sense. Yeah. Although they didn't use his likeness, which of course got Zemeckis and Co. in a lot of trouble there. They just replaced him with a successor, which was probably the better way to go. And you notice the last scene that Bruno Kirby is in, he is wearing a fat suit to show that he was already getting a little bigger. But we have that final scene where, again, you know, Sonny is just spouting off about the Japanese, about World War, generally the war. You know, we get the introduction of Connie to Carlo, and we get the whole, just a little bit of everyone being a family again for a few minutes. And then Sonny starts in his whole thing about suckers going to fight in foreign wars and everything, and saying, like, you know, these kids, they're doing this, you know, like, and Michael speaks up and shows some sympathy. He's like, you know, what's wrong with that? And Sonny says something like, well, if you like it so much, you should quit college and join the army.
And he's like, I did.
I did. And they look at him like, what? He's like, I quit college and joined the Marines. And Frito speaks up and says, congratulations, Mikey, you know, or something like that. But, you know, Sonny is just like flabbergasted.
Oh, he's livid.
He is livid. He is not. And he's like, and on Pop's birthday, no less. You know, it's like, what a fine, you know. And it's kind of like, they're not, it doesn't go over so well. But they all get up because apparently the Vito walks in at that point. They all go up and they sing He's a Jolly Good Fellow or something to that effect. While Michael's just sitting there at the table, just kind of stewing in his thoughts. And then we come back to Michael in the present, stewing in his thoughts. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. You know, a nice, cheerful, happy ending. You know? But like I said, there was that nice little moment. There was a nice little moment where Carla and Tessio or not Carla, Connie and Carlo and Tessio are all in the other room, and it's just like again the four brothers just sitting there one last time. And I don't know, I just like that little moment. I thought that was kind of neat that they pulled that that all together for one last bit. But anyway, that's basically The Godfather Part 2. I know that was a slightly less than accurate rundown in terms of the order, but whatever. It's a 3.5 hour movie. But does anyone have any final thoughts on the plot or characters before we go into production?
Before I run out, I will just say that I did think that the final dinner scene, actually, that is probably my favorite scene in the film. I love how they do that and how they leave it where Michael is the only one sitting at the table,
right?
Where he is alone, and how that is a reflection of what is to come. Is that he is only ever alone. And of course, our comment, which was Thomas Vito's legacy, right. I think that is probably the truth. But yeah, that to me is one of my favorite scenes in the film.
Okay.
As far as that is concerned, that the music, everything else has a spectacular nature. And I also wanted to point out that I thought that the film work, the cinematography was much better this time around than the first time around.
Yeah, I think so too. It wasn't as dark.
But I have turned into a pumpkin as it's 11:30. So,
all right.
Good night, all.
Catch you later.
Good night.
All right. Well, do we? Like I said, let's go ahead and go into production. We just talked a little bit on the camera work, and yes, I do think overall the movie was less dark, physically dark, than the first movie was. Does anyone else have any thoughts on that particularly?
Well, I'm glad that we weren't sitting in darkness for 3.5 hours.
Right. And as far as the overall production, this one, of course, does have a number of scenes in Sicily from back around the turn of the century. We got those Staten Island scenes, but then we also have scenes from the 20s. We have scenes from the 50s. We got scenes that take place in halls of Washington, Cuba, Lake Tahoe. Got a bunch of different locations in this one. New York, old school New York. Do y'all think they did a pretty decent job in the overall mise en scène?
Span of things, I think that they did a decent job of mixing up the two different timelines. Okay. I think by sporadically interjecting the older scenes of Sicily in with the present day, I think that kind of like I think that helped the film tremendously because of the fact that there is a pacing to the film,
right.
and just like the first, it is fairly slow, but there is definitely a little bit more action. I think in this movie because there is a lot going on,
right,
all over the place, and you gotta bear in mind what's happening in Sicily and what's happening in present day, and keep up with the times. So, but I think cinematically, this was a better improvement on the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
I loved seeing the scenes of old Sicily, and a little bit of the town of Corleone.
Mm-hmm.
And a very I think that beginning was very brutal to me,
Mhm.
where the mother was just blown away. You really feel for Vito
Right.
after seeing all that shit go on. You know what exactly happened in the beginnings. I mean, that sets the movie. That sets the mood of the movie.
Mhm.
Because Michael is just as brutal. It's almost like it skipped a generation. You know, I mean, Vito's got his own way of how he does his killing, but he does it with a little bit more style.
Right.
Michael, he might be reserved a bit, but he is cruel when he enacts his revenge.
Right.
So, but that being said, I love the production. Um, in fact, I almost feel like I like both of these movies put together just as equally.
Right.
So that's where I stand on it. Tammy, what did you think about production?
I thought it was really good, like you guys have already brought up about um, all the different locations. Was I thought that was really good because that you got it brought more to the movie to see all these different places and everything, and um, I think it did good at portraying how things were at this time,
Mhm.
and you know what the family, uh, what this family expected of each other and of others around them,
Mhm.
because of their status as who they were. So I think and of course um, their what everybody the apparel, everybody looked like they were in the right time and period for their clothing and everything. It matched, and it matched as to where they were too.
Mm-hmm.
So um, and the vehicles, I,
Oh,
I, of course I noticed vehicles. Yeah,
Right.
I
Right. What do you
know.
think of that? What do you think of that two-tone green car in Havana? That one really stuck out.
I was telling David, look at all them caddies, man.
Right.
Those old caddies, and it was. Yeah, I definitely noticed the different vehicles and the different places and everything. And so I definitely think they did a good job on all that stuff.
Right. Well, apparently they used Dominican Republic as a stand-in for Cuba because obviously you're not really America wasn't really on good terms with them at this point in time.
nope.
Uh, but it was good. It was kind of interesting there.
Yeah,
Um,
because these days Trump is trying to make Cuba one of the 50 states.
yeah.
That
Um,
and Canada.
oh,
But
geez.
in any case,
That's a whole thing. But anyway, and it's a shame too because it's like I mean, Cuba has so much to offer. It's got so much cool stuff. I really want to visit one day, but I don't know if it'll ever happen in my lifetime. But at any rate, we have. I guess we've covered most of the production that I intended to. Music, of course, we had a continuation of the previous score by Nino Rota, but this time Carmine Coppola joined in and is co-credited with the score.
okay.
And interestingly enough, I think this one won the Oscar for original for score. I need to double check and see whether it was a special. This one did actually win 6 Oscars, including Best Picture. Best Supporting Actor for Robert De Niro. Best Director for Coppola. Adapted Screenplay for Coppola and Mario Puzo. Winner for Art Direction, Set Direction, and Original Dramatic Score for Nino Rota and Carmine Coppola, which is weird because the Godfather score by Nino Rota was deemed ineligible, but this one wins. And I'm like, huh? I'm not sure. I guess there was enough original music added this time around.
I
Maybe.
guess so. I mean,
That's
as you say, John Williams can regurgitate his own score and still get an Oscar.
right. He's been nominated how many times for Star Wars scores? That's it's insane. But anyway, and the music is excellent. I love the music, just like the first movie. I just love the music in these movies. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm not sure if it's quite on the same level of iconic that the first one is to me, but we already talked about the Pop Goes the Weasel moment, but there were some genuinely good moments in the movie as well. Any more that y'all want to add on the music, or?
Not that I know of. I mean, the music speaks for itself. I mean, it is iconic in the movies as well as in the game. So, to me, I played the game and watched the movie enough that the score, the da 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 da.
I think this was the first time you mentioned the game. Yeah, it's good stuff. So I guess then, did y'all have any other stuff to throw out before we go into favorites?
Did you have anything else, Tammy?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right. So let's do favorites then. And we will say, who is your favorite character, favorite scene, and or moment, line of dialogue, what have you. And well, let's go ahead and just build on that discussion that we just had. What would you say? Well, actually, I seem to remember neither of you paying as much attention to this. But I was going to say, what would you say is like one of the truly great scores that you would call absolutely iconic, that maybe didn't get as much love as you would think? We'll go with it. And Dave, you can go first.
Oh, well, I guess my favorite. I guess if I had to go with favorite scene or scenes, I would have to say most of the Sicily moments are my favorite. Specifically, the first setup where you see both Vito's brother and his mother shot to shit, basically.
Right.
And pretty brutally too. To me, I don't know why, but that is even though it's disheartening and kind of a wow moment when you first see it. Right. I do think that it is my favorite, just because it is that brutal, and they did go there, you know. Right. And they didn't pull away like they did in American Sniper.
Okay.
You know, where I understand that that you don't like to see the stuff happen. You'd rather just hear it or whatnot because you're just fine with not seeing the gore, not seeing the blood or anything. I prefer to see the reality of things.
Oh, I don't mind seeing blood. Again, for me, a shocking bit of violence actually can be great, but if the pull away is done well, it can be even better. It just depends. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It just like if you're showing it, if it's done well, and yes, that first scene does have that shock moment. That's like,
Mhm.
oh shit, they went there. It's going to be that kind of movie.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I get that. But so what about favorite characters?
I would have to say Vito Corleone is my favorite. It's between Vito Corleone in the past and Tom in the
Okay.
present, because Tom really is like they said, Vito's
Well,
legacy.
let's do that. Let's do what's your favorite one in your past and present. What's this? What a nice pair.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
That's when he brings a pair home to his wife, and
Right.
she's like, "Oh, what a nice pair."
Right. So we had a few people join us tonight. Thank you for that. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So those are your favorites. Okay. Is there a score you can think of that you're like, oh man, that was just an awesome score, and not everyone has appreciated it, and they need to.
Okay. I'm probably going to be in agreement with Tammy. There's a moment in the Halloween from 2018
Mm-hmm.
where the music really amps up, and it sounds like a boat thing.
Right.
Like you can tell the music amps up, and for some reason, I know the score was pretty much done by John Carpenter and his son,
Right.
but I don't think it's a one that people. I think it needs more recognition.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing because it does intensify it. It's just got this. I mean, it caught my attention, and the first time I watched the movie, it was just like, "Oh wow, that's cool."
And that's a pretty good example. I think most people would say the original Halloween score was pretty iconic. Like I think most
The
people.
original was iconic, yes, and the music that he walks to has always relatively stayed the same.
Right.
So to me, that score is one that's like iconic of its own and classic. But so is Indiana Jones music.
Right.
You know, the music.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
mean,
The march.
or the the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
those
The
are
March
iconic.
from Raiders is absolutely one of John Williams' best pieces. But yeah, I was going to say though, with John Carpenter with Halloween, that's a good example of where someone took an existing score and they kind of rebooted their own stuff, but did it in a way that it really worked. Like I agree that the music in Halloween 2018 was quite excellent. The and I make fun of John Williams cannibalizing himself, but he does have a handful.
I will say the Empire Strikes Back soundtrack
Yes.
is my favorite of all of the Star Trek stuff.
Empire Strikes Back is the very rare example of a score that improves on its predecessor, and that's because of the Imperial March.
Yes,
but he has his Star Wars score. He has his Indiana Jones score. He has his Jurassic Park score. He has his Home Alone score.
true.
And most of his scores cannibalized like his Harry Potter score was brilliant, but it cannibalized the Home Alone score. You know what I mean? So it's like,
I mean,
he has a lot of great scores, but a lot of them can be traced like one to the next to the next.
For the
And
most part, you can always tell when who is it? The guy who always works with God, Beetlejuice director
Tim Burton,
Tim Burton.
you're talking about Danny Elfman.
Danny Elfman is always he's well known for working being a gun runner for a lot of things.
Right. There are people, yeah, and he hits himself a lot, but he has good stuff like that. Yeah. But anyway, so we did that. Okay, so Tammy, what were your favorite moment, scene, whatever? And we'll go ahead and say who's your favorite character from the past and your favorite character from the present in this movie. Since
Okay.
Dave kind of did that.
Well, I don't want to. I'm gonna go backwards because I don't want to forget this.
Okay.
I don't know if you really want to call it a score or not, but the music in the show Dark Shadows.
Okay.
The score,
Oh.
you always but during the show, the music that Dan Curtis has playing, like kind of like which character's coming up
Right.
by the music, which I think is neat. You kind of know what's she's coming or he's coming or because they change the music to kind of fit each character.
And that's a relatively common trope in television. They did that in Batman the Animated Series. Like Joker had a theme. If he was coming in, you knew because of the music.
Well, even in modern wrestling, each
Right.
of the gladiators in wrestling, they each have their own entrance
Right.
music.
But I just
So-
thought it was kind of neat, but
Yeah.
some of Dan Curtis's music. Now when I've been at work, I can watch whatever I want while I'm at work.
Right.
I've watched some of other Dan Curtis's films while I've been at work, and it's like he borrows some of that music from Dark Shadows, and it's in other of his movies. I've noticed that because I said something to David. I'm like, hey, I was watching Dan Curtis's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There's music from Dark Shadows in there. And then I was watching another one, and I'm like, hey, there's music from Dark Shadows in here too.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's really qualifies for the not recognized, but it's something that I thought is unique. And then how he's brought that same music into his other movies.
Did Burton have Danny Elfman do the score for the Dark Shadows movie, or was that?
Yeah, he did the music for the Dark Shadows movie,
Okay.
which was one of the good things about it.
Right.
But I do agree with David. The first one I thought of was the Halloween thing that he said.
Right.
So that was the first one that actually came to my mind too.
Right.
But sometimes we think alike. Oh.
I think my favorite moment in the Dark Shadows movie was probably music related, and that's when Alice Cooper had his appearance, and and Barnabas, Johnny Depp's like, that is the ugliest woman I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, Dark Shadows was never supposed to be a comedy, so I get they made it kind of a comedy, and
right.
It's got some older music, but I wasn't as much of a fan of the movie as I was the show.
Right. I need to see the show.
Although I do have to say, Johnny Depp was on top of his game as Barnabas. He took the role seriously. So.
Okay, so back to this one.
Right.
Michael, I like Michael and all in past and present.
Past and present. Well, he was just a little baby in the past.
Oh no. Then then the past.
Or you
No,
mean at
that's
the final scene?
that's oh no, that's young Vito. That's right.
Ah,
In the past,
yeah, I was thinking far past. I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking about that.
So I like Michael and Vito.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I really have a specific scene, but I like the particular saying, keep your friends closer, and your enemies closer.
Right.
I mean, I've heard that saying for for years.
Oh yeah.
Right.
But for
I think a lot of people do get it from this movie, though.
Yeah. Let's look at that. I'm gonna look that up while you're finishing.
So that being said, I don't know if I can say a specific scene, but I like that saying.
Okay.
If that works.
I thought so. The phrase is attributed to Sun Tzu from The Art of War. That's what I thought.
Okay.
But this movie was one of the ones that helped make it a part of pop culture. Like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Jake? Favorite scene, favorite character, and most underrated score.
I will say I love De Niro's performance as Corleone, as Vito Corleone. I thought he did a great job. He's actually one of fewer than a dozen actors who have won an acting Oscar for a role that wasn't in the English language. He spends most of the film talking Sicilian, which De Niro had to learn Sicilian to effectively play the character. So yeah, give him props for that. And the way they portray Vito's just a great character. He's great in the old, he's great in the new. Like I think they did a really good job there. Although I like Clemenza, and I like Bruno Kirby's portrayal of a young Clemenza. I think he's a fun character as well. But as far as the modern time, I do feel for Frito. I really do. I mean, yeah, he's goofy and
he's a schmuck.
He's a schmuck, but he's a lovable schmuck, and I feel bad for him. And I'm tempted to say he's my favorite. I'm trying to think. He probably would be of the modern ones. Like, I can't like Michael in this movie, but he's an impressive character. Let's put it that way. He's an impressive presence in the film.
If you met him in for real, do you think that he would scare you?
Quite possibly, especially if he was angry. With him, part of the scary thing is you don't always know when he's angry. Sometimes you do, but you know when he's pissed. Let's put it that way. As far as favorite moments, and again, I'm not sure I would say favorite, but I would say for me in the movie, the most memorable and iconic moments, almost all are moments involving Frito. There is I know it was you, Frito. That scene is iconic, and for good reason. The scene where he finally opens his heart up to Mike and Mike cuts him out. The scene at the funeral where they kind of make peace. And then the scene where he's teaching Anthony to fish, which ultimately ends in his assassination. And then there's that final scene, that final moment with the brothers at the table. That for some reason I just love that moment. I would say those scenes are probably the most iconic for me, but some of the scenes with De Niro as young Vito are at least a close second, if not tied. The scene where he stares down Finucci and shows him that he is not going to be pushed around. I love that scene, and I love Finucci's reaction to it and everything. That was a great scene too. So I'll give him that.
Got balls,
You
dude.
got exactly. And as far as the music, now of course, when we did another gangster film, Miller's Crossing, I went on and on about the music there and how I think it's one of the greatest scores ever written. And shame on everyone who doesn't know the brilliance of Carter Burwell. But in the interest of doing something a little different, a few days ago I was working a puzzle, and I decided for shits and giggles to play some movie soundtracks while I was doing that. And I chose two scores by one of the best composers in film, who sadly has only done a handful of films. Mark Knopfler did the score for both The Princess Bride and Wag the Dog. And he was also involved in the original songs for both films. And they are two of the best scores. The Princess Bride in particular is one of the most iconic scores I think ever written. And I absolutely love it. And, you know, I love Wag the Dog too. They're both absolutely wonderful scores.
I actually have not seen Wag the Dog. I've seen Power of the Dog, but not Wag the Dog.
Slightly different. Ever so slightly different. But the let's see here. I'm trying to find. There have been a couple of others, and I've been meaning to watch a couple of these. But not a whole lot. He did Local Hero. That I think was one of the big. And you know what? No, I don't. I was going to say I think I have that, but no, I actually don't. But that's one I need to see back in the early '80s. But yeah, the movie, The Princess Bride, got an Oscar nomination for original song, and that was its only nomination, which is a crime. Wag the Dog fared a little better, but I don't think it got a music nod either. I'd have to check. But both good times. But yeah, Mark Knopfler, Carter Burwell. I'll throw Clint Mansell out as another one who's criminally underrated. There's a few composers. And Bruno Coulet, the guy who wrote the music for Song of the Sea, The Secret of Kells, and Coraline. All three of those are phenomenal scores. That dude.
I'll agree on Coraline. I haven't seen the other two.
All three of the Cartoon Saloon films. He also did Wolfwalkers. If you haven't seen them, Song of the Sea in particular is a wonderful film. But the music, oh my God, the music is phenomenal. But anyway, that's enough of that. I'll hand it back to you, Dave. I think that is The Godfather Part 2.
Alrighty.
And our discussion is a full hour shorter than the film.
Oh, well, I'm sort of glad because I'm not sure how much longer I will be.
Oh, it's midnight here, so yeah.
But in any case, hopefully you all have enjoyed our discussion on said film. If you haven't seen the film, go out and see it. And if you do, go down to the commentary. Let us know what you thought of our discussion, what you thought of the movie, and I'm sure we'll be able to have a totally another discussion down in the comments. We can have it back and forth, but all night if we really wanted to. But on that note, we will be continuing the franchise next week, Monday. And I think for tonight, I'm going to skip outros for today because we have told many outros in the past. Hopefully, you guys are okay with that, and we'll tell you what's been going on with us in the past. What it was a couple of weeks next time, so that we can have the rest of us go to bed. At least a little bit early, and I've got laundry to do.
Next time, Godfather Part 3. Yes.
So, like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Everyone say good night.
Good night.
Everyone.
Inside Movies Galore just makes you just want more. We've had all in the world of media to explore. Horror, anime, or Curious George. Our love of new things was our reward. It is the best night of our week.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.